Hi guys, today we're going to be doing a little bit of planting. We're going to be working out in the front yard and we're going to be planting a couple different varieties of ground covers. Now, I did a video on ground covers last fall and I went into great detail explaining what is a ground cover, what qualifies a plant as a ground cover, and all of the benefits. So I will put a link in the description box if you want to check out that video. But today we're going to be focusing on drought tolerant ground covers. You hear the term drought tolerant a lot in the gardening industry, and what that basically means is how long can a plant go in between waterings before it starts to suffer and stress. And a lot of it depends on the variety of plant, the age of the plant, and your environment. Take this hedge, for example. This is a 4-year-old green velvet boxwood hedge. The first year I planted it, I came out here with a hose twice a week and watered it throughout the spring, summer, and fall. But now, 4 years later, it has rooted in and it doesn't need any supplemental watering. Its root system is established enough that it can go searching underground for its water. And you can see it's doing really well. Minus, of course, the leaf miner damage we endured. But now take, for example, this junior giant arborvitae hedge that we just planted. These, I come out here and water them as needed. Now, we've gotten a lot of rain the last month or so I haven't had to water them, but during the heat of summer, I will probably bring a hose out here twice a week and give them a deep soak throughout the entire season of summer and fall. And then next spring, we'll kind of just play it by ear, but by then, they should be rooted in enough. Now let's head over to the butterfly garden because a lot of these perennials have just recently been planted or transplanted. So these do require regular waterings. Again, we've gotten so much rain that I haven't had to bring a hose out, but once the heat of summer comes, most likely I will be coming out here a couple times a week and giving them all a deep soak. So the perennials in the butterfly garden are not as drought tolerant as, say, the boxwood hedge, because even when they reach maturity and are fully established, they're still going to require more frequent waterings than the boxwood hedge. Or what we're going to be planting today. Let's take a look at what we've got in our cart today. So I've got 3 different varieties of sedum here. This one is the Rock and Round Pure Joy sedum. This grows 10 to 12 inches tall and it spreads out about 16 inches wide, hardy in zones 3 through 9. And this blooms late summer all the way through to fall. These beautiful pink flowers, and the pollinators love these. Let's get that in there. Next, we have Rock and Round Bright Idea. This is another one that gets 10 to 12 inches tall and 16 inches wide, hardy in zones 3 through 9. And this blooms late summer all the way through fall. These beautiful bright yellow flowers. And then we have this itty bitty one. This is a tricolor sedum. Look at that. So this only gets 4 inches tall, but it spreads out about 18 inches wide, and it blooms early spring and all the way through. It does do a couple bloom cycles. These beautiful bright pink flowers. So pretty. I think there's one right there starting. Can you see that? Oh, they're so cute. And then I brought out one of our echinacea that we started from seed. Now these are drought tolerant after they are fully established. They can go a little bit in between waterings, but unlike the sedum that can go quite a bit because the sedum tend to hold a lot of moisture in their leaves, this does require more frequent watering than the sedum. So this would be considered less drought tolerant than the sedum. And then right over here, we have a blue rug juniper. This is a woody ground cover. This kind of reminds me of cotoneaster. So this gets 6 to 8 inches tall, but it can spread out about 4 to 5 feet wide. And what I love about this is look at the berries that it produces. Aren't they pretty? And the foliage. The foliage is this like greenish blue, but it does have a little tiny bit of like a silver to it. It's so pretty. And then I have one little sweet romance lavender. I don't know if I'm gonna get this in the ground today, but lavender is another one that doesn't like to be sitting in wet soil. It's kind of like the sedums and the juniper. They like their drink of water, but then they want the rest of the water to drain away, and they want to dry out before they get watered again. So this gets 12 to 18 inches tall and wide. It's hardy in zones 5 through 9. It starts blooming late spring, early summer, all the way through early fall. These beautiful lavender scented blooms, so pretty. Also, sedums don't like to be fertilized, so we're not going to add any biotone to the holes. We're just going to dig our hole and pop them in, because what happens to sedum if you fertilize them or if they get too much water or not enough sun, they tend to start to get a little leggy, and then they start to flop and spread out, and you end up with like these just giant holes in your plant. So we don't want anything like that happening. All right, let's go dig some holes and plant some plants. Actually, here's a good example of what happens to sedum when it gets a little too much water. See that in the center? See how it's just starting to flop? This needs to dry out a little bit. More sun, less water. So we're in the front yard now, and this is the area that we're going to be planting up. I kind of sort of have an idea where I want some of these plants to go. So what I'm going to do is lay them all out the way I want them, get them all planted, watered in, and then when I'm done, I'll come back around and give you guys a little mini tour and show you where everything ended up. I'm also going to pop this grass out. I'm not loving it in this spot, and since we're planting sedum that blooms yellow, this is just going to be way too much yellow in one spot. So we're going to pop this out, and then we'll get planting. All right, guys, we got it all planted and it looks so good, and it's gonna look even better once it all fills in. Here it is, and just give it a little bit of time for it all to fill in, and it's just going to look amazing. So I planted the blue rug juniper right over here next to the cotoneaster and the rocks, because again, this only gets 6 inches tall, but 4 feet wide. So this thing can just crawl and spread around the mulch and over the rocks and just kind of cover this whole area here. Right over here, I've got the 3 tricolor sedums, which you can't really see against the mulch. And these grow 4 inches tall, but 18 inches wide. Ooh, so they're gonna fill in nicely. Oh, So excited. And then I put the sedum, the Bright Idea sedum, right along the border here. I planted 6 of them. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. I can't even count. I planted 5 of them right along the border here. And they're just gonna be these beautiful yellow mounds right against the concrete here. And then the Popstar sedum right where we had the Acorus Ogon grass. And this is gonna bloom a nice pretty blush pink with the yellow, purple from the verbena, the blue from the Lithidora, and the white from the cotoneaster. Oh, it's all just gonna look so good. I wish I could just kind of fast forward so I could see all of these in bloom. Oh. And you know what else is great about ground covers? See how right over here at the edge we're kind of on a little bit of a slope? Once all of these plants root in, they're gonna help with soil erosion. So when it rains, the soil is gonna be locked in with the roots and it's not just gonna eventually just wash off. So that's another added benefit to ground covers. Aside from the fact that they look gorgeous and they cover the mulch and we have a lot more pretty things to look at, another thing, soil erosion. And they're great on slopes and banks and along rock gardens. Oh, look at it from this. So pretty. And the tricolor sedum is right here, and I just barely went along the edge here because again, this whole area right here, we're gonna eventually have a path, but again, we may cut into this a little bit, so the path is still kind of, we're still trying to figure out the exact curve and if we're going to bring it down here or if we're going to curve it out and bring it down here. So I think it's okay to plant right along the edge here because either way they're still going to fill in. I forgot to mention, I did not water any of these plants in. We've had so much rain the last few weeks. The ground is still holding on to a lot of moisture. So these plants are gonna be good for quite a few days. Also, I didn't worry too much about the mulch because as you can see, I've got quite a bit of weeding to do all throughout this little slope right here. So once I get in here and get all of these weeds out, I'm gonna put a nice fresh layer of mulch right along this slope. And I think it's gonna look gorgeous. I'm so happy to get these plants out of their containers and in the ground. Some of them I've had for 2 seasons. The blue rug juniper I've had in its nursery container for 2 years. So this thing is going to be super happy to be in the ground. And I have 3 more on the kitchen porch waiting for their turn too. So we've got a lot more planting ahead of us. And you guys, that is it for our video today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and we will see you in the next one. Bye.